I've been doing a lot of experiments lately, and I've got all these different pieces of Bristol that I've been trying stuff out on. And I decided that I wanted to keep them somewhere where I could like put this in there, and then I mean, like, you could write on the back like what you did on there, but I thought like if you put it on like a page, like I put it on here and then I just wrote what I did on it, that would really be cool, because then I could go back and like refer and see all the different like effects, and then I could pick like what I wanted to do when I was working in my journal or whatever. And instead of just having them all over and like having to remember what I did, it would be cool to put in a book. So what I've got here is the book that I'm going to be putting together, and I've got two pieces of, this is bookboard by Seven Gypsies, and then the pages are actually chipboard, and you can see it's really thin, but it's, you know, kind of tough, and it's got this grain on it, and I can use both sides of it. So what I've done is just to cut the pieces all down to the same size, and I'm just going to use binder rings, just 2 binder rings on here, to put it all together. But what I wanted to do before I punched holes in it was decorate the cover. So I'm going to do that using the techniques that I've been playing with, which is mostly working with the distress inks, and also you can use these dye inks. And you can tell if it's what kind it is, because like on here it says, and I can put it up, it says fade resistant dye ink, and that's what I've been using, and that's what works with the techniques that I've been doing. So I'm going to decorate the front cover of this, and the first thing I'm going to put down is some paper. So I've got some paper that I got, and I'm just going to go ahead and coat the front of this with Collage Podge. So I'm going to take and just put this on here, and just with my craft knife, just cut along the edge. Well, that's going to be my front cover of my experiments book. And I'm going to use ink on here to do the cover, and what I'm going to do is I have a couple experiments that I've done. So I have a couple sets of just clear acrylic stamps, and I'm going to grab one that, you want to grab one that has detail. There's solid versions and then there's outline versions, and you want to use outline versions of stamps with this technique because it looks better and works better. So I'm going to put that down on my acrylic block, and then I'm going to take some of this Collage Podge and just lightly brush it over the stamp. You don't want too much like extra glue in there, so just brush it over the stamp. And then I'm just going to put this somewhere because it's kind of cool looking, so I'm going to put it down here in this corner. So I'm just going to press it down and then pull it up. And you can see in the light from this lamp over here that there's like this shiny residue left. And you're going to leave that to dry. And you can just, I just use a spray bottle and just wet the stamp so you can see where the glue is left, and then just kind of blot it off. And it doesn't need to be a clear acrylic stamp, it can be any kind of stamp that you're using. I'm just going to make a fun little background just with my ink blender, or you can use, this is the cut and dry foam or whatever you have on hand, or you can even just use the actual stamp pads and just go at it. But I think the blue and the green would look really good over this pattern, so I'm just going to use my blending tool. And I'm on my craft sheet, and I'm just going to start over here so this has time to dry. So I'm just going to kind of go from the edge. I'm going to use the green, and I'm going to bring that into the center very lightly. So I'm just going to press that in and then just really lightly blend this back into the blue. Blend back in a lot more over that area. And you can see the area where I stamped, the stamp kind of shows through, and it almost has an embossed feel to it. The last thing I'm going to do is just kind of, you can see how the water kind of reacts with the ink, and it's going to give me this really cool kind of watercolory look. So I'm just going to blot this water, the excess off, because I've kind of gotten the effect I want. I want to have a little bit of dimension on my cover, so what I'm going to do is just one of these, the pieces that I cut for inside, so it's not too thick. And I have a stencil here, and I kind of want to figure out, you know, because I love these, and I think this size would be a good size for the cover here. I'm just going to outline the stencils on here. And there's this really cool star that you can see I've used, so I'm going to do one of these. So here are my shapes, and this is definitely one of those instances where I wish I had a die cutter to do these. I'm going to take a piece of Bristol, which is like 120 or 140, and I'm going to play with this with the ink as well to cover these. So this is where you can use any kind of dye ink that you have, and I use the Mementos. I'm going to do a couple layers of color, and I like to start with the darker color layers. I'm going to spritz it with my spray bottle until it beads up on the craft sheet, and then I'm just going to press this in here, and press this end in here, get some more on the ends, and you can see it's kind of watercolory. And I don't have a heat thing, so I have to let it dry before I can do the next step. This is dried enough for me to do another layer of color, and on top of that I'm going to do a really bright pink. This is Warm lipstick, and I'm going to put in some rhubarb stalk. Just kind of do that. Do the same thing again, and then tap it. Let's say you don't have, you know, dye inks, but you have these kind. You have this is acrylic artist ink. This is Bombay magenta, and then I actually have a re-inker that I use too. So all you do with these, which is really fun, is you just kind of draw on the craft sheet. Same rules. Tap it in the mess of colors all over the place. And you get this really cool watercolory page. Now that my strip has dried and you can see how really cool it comes out looking, I'm just going to glue it to these the same way I did the cover. Just glue this and put it down, and then cut it out around it with my craft knife. I think what I'm going to do is stamp one of my labels and then put these around it, off center. Put these guys. I want to darken the edges around it. So I'm going to go just really lightly over these elements. And I kind of don't like how Lab Experiments came out on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp with the brown again onto like I think I'm going to actually stamp it onto a piece of the paper that's used for the background. I'm just going to do a little bit of the old paper around the edges. I'm going to actually take the stamp pad so then I have a cool cover for my Lab Experiments, and I punch the holes in this first and then mark the covers. I'm just going to eyeball it like that. So I'm going to mark where the holes are supposed to go on the front of my sheet. My hole punch. Okay, so my hammer here wasn't cutting it, so I took it downstairs and got a bigger hammer. And don't do that with your craft sheet. Now there's a nice hole in it. For this one I'm going to use, I have a pack of binder rings, and I can use green or blue. And I'm going to use blue. I have a handy little book to paste all of these tags into, and then I can write, and I can just keep doing that. So there you go, my Lab Experiments book.